Today we're looking at Diamine Asa Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine Asa Blue is a blue ink, as the name suggests. But before we get to the writing samples, I'd really like to look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography. I agree with Vita that doing multiple chromatographies over the years of doing it has really taught me a lot about the performance of inks. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, I put it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds and let the ink creep up. What we see is a very light blue, really no sign of permanence at the bottom, and then it gets very dark as it moves up. But the one on the right is where I let it dry for 10 minutes before I put it into the water. And we see a much darker, thicker line at the bottom where it starts to want to hold on to the page. Then we see all of that light blue. Then we see the dark blue again at the top. But there's some very good news here when it comes to being able to clean out of a pen. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink will hold up on the page, but more important, how hard it would be to clean from your pen. I let the ink dry, I let that smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Now looking at the highlighter, we see that even after 3 days, that ink gets reactivated and starts to feather out. So this might not be your best option for note taking. Water definitely activates this ink, starts to get it moving, starts to lift it off. I only give a drop of water 30 seconds there before I dab it up. I don't even wash it away, I don't wipe it away. Now when I put on the pen flush, a lot more of it moves, but we're still left with that very light blue behind. Not a blue behind, but blue behind on the paper. Similar to the water, but more of it. It's moving a lot more of this ink. Bleach is taking it completely off the page. It's white, and that was a drop for 30 seconds. Now this is a bell curve, or a normal distribution. For the 365 inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, but the range of normal, one standard deviation from the average, is 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine Asa Blue has a viscosity of 2.32. Well within normal. Not right at the average, but well within normal. That means that this ink shouldn't be a problem for any particular pen unless that pen needs a very fast flowing or very slow flowing ink. This is a bell curve showing the average dry time. For the 365 inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds. And I found that one standard deviation from that average is the range 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine Asa Blue has an average dry time of 19 seconds. So it is well within normal. It's on the higher side of normal, but it is well within normal dry time for fountain pen ink. How do I find my average dry time? I use my writing samples with the extra fine and the medium nib done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now let's take a look at the writing samples. I have this ink in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub. I use a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium nib, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine nib. Let's look at Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no color variation. With the extra fine, we have the same thing. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 13 seconds to dry. And with the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, nothing. It's blue. And that's it. 19 seconds to dry. With the scrubbies, extra fine and the medium does show some color variation, although I'm not getting it in the writing, it shows it in the scrubby. Maybe a much wetter pen, but when I tried this with the FPR Himalaya, I'm not getting color variation. So I don't know that this ink really is going to give it to us. Although if I smear it, I can recover what was underneath, so it has that going for it. Looking at Tomoe River, no bleeding, tons of ghosting, it's Tomoe River. In the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, dark
blue. It's a darker blue than I get with the extra fine. So the only way you're going to get some shade difference is with the pen. And we see that even right there with the medium. So looking at the extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade in the writing itself, 20 seconds to dry. With the medium, darker than we got with the extra fine, about the same as what we got with the stub. The writing sample gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. If this ink was going to have some sheen, it would have sheen with this paper. I'm not seeing sheen. Maybe others do. I don't. 27 seconds to dry. No shading. Dark blue. The scrubby shows us we get no color variation. And the smear, I can almost never recover a smear from Tomoe River. Looking at the Rhodia paper, we have no bleeding. It looks like it might. I think that was me being aggressive. We have no ghosting. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, no color variation. It's a boring blue to me. Boring blue doesn't mean anything bad, in my opinion. It just means that it's a straightforward blue is blue and nothing else. 15 seconds to dry. With the medium, it's a little darker, so the shading comes with the ink or with the pen. The flow of the pen, not the pen as it writes on the paper. So we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 20 seconds to dry. And we see that there's no shade when we look at a scrubby. It reflects both in the writing and the scrub. And on a smear, I could recover this. So because this is this type of blue, and I was expecting maybe, some color change when I put it onto the yellow paper, I tried it with the yellow Rhodia. And no bleeding, no ghosting. Practically the same colors as white. There's not really a color change. It's a very strong blue in that way. With the 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine, nothing. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 15 seconds to dry. A little bit darker with the medium, just as with the white paper. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 20 seconds. The scrubbies, blue. No shade whatsoever. But I could definitely recover that smear. And I went to the Limone paper. I went to the Limone paper because I have issues with getting it to perform. We see it bleeds. Not onto the page below, but it bleeds. The 1.1 gives us feathering. Gives us spread. No halo, no shade, no sheen. But definitely spread and feather. The extra fine, when we look at that extra fine, look at that. It's spreading. So that's a spread we're getting. No feathering on the extra fine, but we have spread. It's a thicker line that we're going to get. No halo, no sheen, no shade. 8 seconds to dry. With the medium, we definitely have spread. We definitely have a whole bunch of little feathers going on. They're not jutting way out there where they're huge and distracting, but because it's spread the way it is, I kind of draw to it, especially with the E and the. We see it all the way up the line from the T to the H in the. We see it in the K. We see it in the O of the brown. We definitely see it in jumps. We definitely see it in the 12. So it's got a lot of feathering here. No halo, no sheen, no shade. The scrubby shows us there's no color variation. And the smear, we could definitely recover this from the smear. So that's what I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine Asa Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that will really complement the color on the page. Now, I went with a red ink here. It's an easy choice with blue, but I think this is a nice one. I chose Robert Oster Crimson. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I'm asking if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. Now, I've used the FPR, the Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya with the flex nib to take my notes for this video. So what do I think of the Asa Blue? Yep, it's blue. Just blue. Glad I only have a sample. So now the big question, would I buy a bottle of this ink? No, this blue doesn't speak to me in any way. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad blue. It's not a bad color. It's not bad performing. It does not speak to me as a blue ink. It's just blue to me. Thanks for watching.